Maserati go crazy.
I gotta grind till there's nothing left. Every day I'ma make it, gotta give it my best. Feel like I'm running out of time now with niggas stress. So I stack every dollar, gotta double the check. And my team, we going hard, so watch me finesse. I chase a bag, ain't no time to rest. I can't stop till I got my name on it. I'm going until I get everything I want. I want a big house with a backyard with the pool in it. And a fish tank in my big house, so if we got beef, we throwin' food in. I need a big car with some nice rims with the roof lit. So I can do the dash, then swerve, bitch, I went to school with. Another house up on the hill, so my mama be straight. A couple acres of that land, so my siblings could play. And if my daddy acting right, I put food on his plate. So when I finally get that chance, I'ma do what it take. I want 100K on my wrist. I shine bright when the lights low, another 100K on my neck. VVS looking like white snow, maybe courtside with Drake and them. 2 chains in my album, so I chase it back by any means. Hoping one of them will be the outcome, and I will. Grind to the death of me. Family, money, and loyalty be the recipe. I will.
Good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of Uphill Battle. Happy Juneteenth to everyone. Struggle is real.
For sure.
For sure. We've been going for a little bit because life happens, and but one thing that is for sure, this politics don't stop. It's a daily struggle. We try to get you up to date and tell you our views on certain things that's been going on. What's up, son? What's going on?
Hey, not much, as you said. It's been a lot. It's been a while since we, got together to talk about some of these things. So, some important races to cover, and like you said, some thoughts on just different things that's been happening.
One of the craziest things, before we get into it, the spectrum of politics has changed so much. I mean, when I was your age, because I've always been just a student of history and a student of politics, and it always, it has drawn me in. The issue when it comes to race used to never be politics. Gender and sexuality orientation and things of that nature, those were social issues. And it seems as though in the last 10 years, 10 to 15, well, I'm going to say major the last 10 years, when it comes to just social issues, it's been all wrapped into politics. We generally do not speak on basically policy anymore. We're just discussing social wars. And it used to be that you didn't talk about the third rail. You didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about abortion. You didn't talk about Social Security. You didn't talk about, who you voted for. It used to be your private thing. You didn't have to tell people how, and people wouldn't even ask you who you voted for. It was your personal thing. That's why, like, when it stopped, and it's not like that anymore. Other than election time, you never seen politician paraphernalia. And once election time was over, it went away. And we just went back to our lives. This cult, and it's a cult, of MAGA has been drawing on the American public, and I would say now to the point, the world for the last 10 years, and this is unprecedented. And it ultimately really disgusts me when I think about how Democrats still, to many extents, want to deal with on things as the world is still the same. It's business as usual.
And it's not.
And you have been getting your ass handed to you for the last 10 years. And it's really been a measure for the last 30 to 40 years of slowly losing ground because of school board election, of state legislature, of having the governorships and judges,
Most importantly.
being judges on the bench. Not even to mention the craziest thing is for instance, in Alabama, this is the first time in the last 20 years that Alabama has a Democrat running for every seat in the state. So literally, they would concede positions in the state
Hmm.
because they wouldn't run anybody. So I'm getting off on the tangent before I even start, but before we even start, but it's like this has just been really upsetting me because of the primary season.
Yeah.
And there are still attacks going on within the Democratic Party because they don't want these truly progressive candidates to win. And they, instead of being primary season, for people don't understand, and I'm gonna get with you in a second, son. Primary season is where as though you decide on according to your state and what who is going to run for the in the general in November. And a lot of times you have some infighting and sniping, and a lot of times the establishment Democratic Party and National Party, they have their person that they pick and they back. And if that person doesn't win, usually they would, back off. And now whoever wins the primary, they're going to support and try to give them the backing and things like that. Unless you are quote unquote a progressive. And unless you are quote unquote a person that will not fall into corporate society, the moderatism is dead, and they want to keep it alive. They make people think that they want safe space, that safe space with the Democratic Party that is moderate. They're corporatists. They just want to make sure the train was run on time. They're fine with corporate landlords and oligarchies, but they want civility. They don't want chaos. And I I say all that on the dawn of the first black president actually opening his center because he was ultimately a very great president in the eyes of norms and a corporate dim. Wasn't a great president for progressive.
Yep.
And I mean, I have my qualms with him, but he was a normal president.
Yeah.
And where we are in these dark days we actually stream for that normalcy again. Separate from the policies that we hated. Because I'm sorry, there's no candidate that you're going to actually truly, totally agree with 100%. And that's going to open the way to our discussion when it comes to these primaries. If that's what you wanted to attack
Yeah,
first.
yeah, no, that is it's a perfect segue. Because yeah, the first thing I want to touch on are the primaries that just happened this week in Washington D.C. So yeah, so this election was the first time that D.C. was implementing ranked choice voting, and we touched on ranked choice voting, a little while back. But basically, there's a list of candidates that are running, and you just rank them in order of one through however many candidates are running. And then if nobody gets over the 50% threshold in the first round of voting, then it goes to the second round of voting, which starts tabulating, okay, then how many people got second place votes and third place votes and stuff like that. So this is the first election that DC implemented this ranked choice voting, and it was for the mayor election. And the current mayor, Muriel Bowser, she decided not to seek re-election after serving 3 terms. And in DC, the mayors aren't term limited, so she could have ran again, but she decided not to. So the two main contenders in the race were DC Council member Janice Lewis George, and then Kenyon McDuffie. Lewis George is a Democratic Socialist, and then McDuffie is the more moderate candidate. And they counted the ballots over the last couple of days, and basically just announced that Louis George won. So it's another win for socialists around the country. But just like you were saying, she's expecting a moderate challenger to jump in the race because again, this was the primary election, so the general election is going to be in November. So she's expecting a primary or a challenger in the general election, just like what happened with Zohran Mamdani in New York City after he won the Democratic primary. Andrew Cuomo, who he beat in the primary, then just jumped in the race and ran as an independent, which luckily Zohran was able to overcome that. But who knows what's going to be the case in DC. But just wanted to highlight this because again, it's noteworthy because it's coming off a slew of mayoral wins in November by a couple of socialists. Again, like I said, like in New York City with Zohran Mamdani, and then over in Seattle with Katie Wilson. But this is interesting because if Louis George ends up winning the election and becoming the next mayor, Zohran and Katie Wilson, they can go to their Democratic governors, and try to get their funding for the priorities and stuff passed. It's going to be different in DC because she's going to have to go to Trump because the federal government basically has control over DC. Like they are their own government, but they get the funding from the federal government. They're within the federal government, and it's going to be interesting too because Zoran went to go meet with Trump, and Trump basically fell in love with him and basically offered funding for some of his housing priorities, but he was asked, I think it was even earlier today, he was asked by a couple of reporters of what he thought about the race, and he said that he's not going to do anything to get her priorities passed. He said that if she wins, that he's not going to like it, and he's going to take back DC, and the federal government's going to fully run it. So again, just wanted to highlight this because it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. One, if she gets a challenger in the race, but also if she wins, and then how Trump's going to react to that. So I don't know if you want to touch on that before I went on.
This is, I do want to touch on it, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I just did some research on this last couple of days. And for one, I was very happy that this person won. But I knew that it was going to be an issue for one, because again, she's a black woman and she is not moderate. And she is very principled and strong-willed in her conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And she like many people, well, and I'm one of them, believe that DC should be autonomous and they should run their own
Hmm.
city. What I want to correct you a little bit on what you said because this is not normal in the
Yeah.
sense that yes, Congress is supposed to be Congress, the body
Yes.
of
Yes. Yeah.
Congress,
Yeah.
the House of
I said the federal.
not
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
president.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. But
Yeah.
because literally Congress at this point, Mike Johnson, the pseudo speaker, who only has a majority by one vote, is basically bows down to anything that Trump wants.
Mhm.
So literally Trump is running DC. And because she is a democratic socialist, and I think we need to actually make sure we put in that democratic socialist. A lot of these terms that we use, people don't understand. And they think when they think about socialism, they think of communism, and there are two different things. A democratic socialist actually works in the confines of capitalism, but they believe that the government is there to work for the people. And they believe in government programs and safety nets and actually talk about redistribution of wealth. So, whereas though the floor is risen for the people, these things work in many countries.
Hmm.
They, this country pushes back on this, but one of the bright spots that I believe that's going to happen because of this Trump regime is it's going to be a spur of democratic socialism,
Hmm.
especially with your generation and a generation behind.
Yeah.
Um, so it's going to be interesting. And what I've read about her, and there's no pushback on her. She believes what she believes, and she is going to be ready for a fight.
Hmm.
And to be honest, if things progress the way that I hope and feel, the way the primaries and the way the winds are blowing, it's all about voting. And
Hmm.
if Democrats actually get back into power and overtake the House, then he will be neutered. So things that he will try to force on DC will
Hmm.
be irrelevant because Congress will take back the purse strings and think, and then she will be negotiating with some corporate Dems. But one of the things that I do know is Democrats, especially establishment Democrats, they will go the way the wind is blowing.
Hmm.
So if the wind is blowing towards progressive viewpoints, and they that way they'll be able to keep their cushy jobs, they will
Yeah.
flow that way. So this is what I always talk about. Whereas though I used to be a Democrat, and then I dropped that moniker, and I'm non-affiliated. But obviously, I will never vote for a Republican.
Yeah.
At, as the way that the Republican Party is based now. So you need to negotiate with these people and push them to issues that you want. You can't negotiate with them.
No.
There is no more handshake deals, and we vote and then we go or have a drink and we discuss things off of that 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 reality of when Joe Biden was in the 70s and 80s and still was hanging out with Orland Hatch and people on the other, those things is over because they're fundament that is fundamentally broken.
Yeah. To touch on a couple of things you just said, yeah, like the Democratic Party, if the Republican Party is moving far to the right, you can't try to move to the center. And that's what a lot of the moderates are thinking, like, oh no, this is what the base is telling us that we need to do. We need to move closer to this. That's not what they're saying. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is that they're ready for bold change. So if the right is gonna move further to the right, the left has to move further to the left. It just has to happen, and that's what you're seeing with these wins by Democratic Socialists around the country. Even if it's only a small sample size, you also have, which I want to touch on in a couple of weeks, because next week in New York City it's the primary elections, and there's Democratic Socialists running in two different elections up here. So it's gonna be interesting to see that as well. But the Republican Party, they're always trying to exclude others. Whether it's based on religion, whether it's based on race and black people, whether it's on the trans issue. The worst that the Democratic Party has done, and it's not even the entire Democratic Party, but it's a portion of them, is that they call out billionaires and say that they shouldn't exist. That's it. No one should be offended by that other than billionaires. But the Republican Party is constantly large groups of people, entire religions, entire nationalities, entire races of people. It's ridiculous. So the moderates, like you said, they'll catch wind of what's going on in the country, so they'll start to move hopefully further to the left, but they're going to be drugged there like kicking and screaming, if they do even get there, which is really unfortunate because again, the base is telling you what they want. They are. You got to look at these elections. New York City is a large city. DC is majority black and a majority Democratic. Same thing with Philadelphia, majority Democratic. So this is the Democratic Party. And I touch on Philadelphia because Chris Rabb, the other socialist who just won the election, so he's going to be joining Congress as well. It's very, very, very important that the party again catches up with the times and again moves to the left.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was a poll. Actually, I was looking through some things yesterday, and it was a poll. This is how confused. This is how confused the electorate is, and they did a poll, and 40% of Democrats polled said that the party should move to the center. Only 37% of the polls said the party should be moved more to a democratic socialist. But when they talked about policy,
Specific
when they
policies.
talked about specific policies, when they talked about taxing the rich, taxing the billionaires, Medicare for all, Social Security stabilization, things of those natures, over 65 to 70% of the people polled were for it, but they kept on, but they don't understand that's moving farther to the left. That's not moderate. When they do these polls, they word it to people whereas though some people think they are more center.
Hmm.
Like I'm half, but when you talk about policies, they are more farther to the left when it
Hmm.
comes to that spectrum.
That's because they've been told that these things are radical. and the people that are advocating for them and running on these kind of policies that again ultimately most people like agree on and like would support. They've been told that the radical positions, far left positions, when they're not. And like you said, it's based on how they word it and how it's presented to them. I can't hear you.
I muted myself. I'm sorry. Um, it's crazy because when you act, like I said, when you bring out the policies, majority of people are for the socialist policies, but they don't know it.
Hmm.
And I often bring up the fact that we live in this so-called capitalist society, but all the sports that we support, all American sports are social. They do revenue sharing. These football is all revenue sharing. 32 teams split the money from the sales of merchandise, from the TV, all the TV deals. It's split equally through 32 teams. So whereas though no one team can falter because all 32 split. The same thing with basketball. All 30 teams in basketball do revenue sharing, whereas though all the contracts that they have with the networks and the apparel deals and things like that is split. The only thing that you get to keep yourself is what you make in your home stadium. Then that's your revenue. But everything with the big picture of the thing, whereas though that's why I often talk about when we go to basketball games and stuff like that, and people be like, and when you hear fans say, "I pay these people stuff," no, you pay for the usher and the guy that's basically giving selling you the popcorn, and you pay a little something if you go into that that store in the stadium,
Hmm.
that's their revenue. Their money, they're more concerned about the TV revenue and make sure that X player is not sitting out on some management
Hmm.
because it's a TV product, because that's where the real dollars are coming from.
Hmm.
Fans don't uh, fans want to believe that they're actually more important than they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you are if you turn your television off and you don't watch it,
Hmm.
and if you don't stream it, but you just going to a game. It's really insignificant, except for how did how did all these games survive with no fans during the pandemic?
Hmm.
Because they still had TV revenue and they still was able to make profit. And that's socialism.
It's all over the place.
It's all yeah,
Yeah.
and it works. It works. This capitalist society is quote unquote 250 years old. This is still an experiment. And the reign of this experiment is literally coming to an end. Literally. Because
Yep.
they allow
Unsustainable.
by it's unsustainable because of deregulation and allow and this is the first time that inflation has rose past compensation and wages in years, going back to the Great Depression. And what actually brought this country out of the Great Depression, Dallas? People don't want to talk about it.
Socialism.
Socialism, socialism, FDR, Social Security, the New Deal. Whereas though the government actually said put in things to actually help the people. You had a democratic socialist as a president, and probably the greatest president ever in this country because it gave the power back to the people. Social safety net, social security, the welfare system to help people along wasn't us. Um, help with housing, so much whereas though FDR was actually what? He was the last president to actually be president more than 2 terms because he did so well for the people. He kept on getting voted in. He was voted in president 4 times because of his socialism. He only served 12 and a half years because he died, and then Truman actually finished his last term. And then right after he died, they actually put in the 22nd Amendment. So whereas though presidents could only be president for 2 terms or 10 years total. So if you take over in the middle of a term and then you can run for 2 terms on your own. But that this was all based on socialism. And what the craziest thing about people, if you give them social programs, even if they fight it at the beginning, once they have it, they don't want to give it up.
Yeah, it's hard.
That was the issue with the ACA. And with all the shortfalls and the problems that they had with the ACA, with the tax credits and health insurance, people needed it and used it and didn't want to give it up.
Yeah.
And for the last 10 years, the person who's been in and out of office and has been saying, I'm working on it. I have a concept of a program. They haven't replaced it with anything.
And they've had years to do it.
But the people on that side constantly say people don't want to give up their private insurance. Shit, if I don't, how many people talk about how much their insurance is shitty?
Yeah.
How much do they talk about how their insurance company said they're not going to pay for this? Before the ACA, how many insurance companies were saying they wasn't covering you for previous conditions?
Mm-hmm.
Before the ACA, how you couldn't carry your child to their 26th birthday. People say they don't want a public option. No, those are politicians saying that. And let me say this, those politicians have what? Free health care.
Yep.
You can't talk to me about you got it. Nobody wants to give up their private insurance when you can get bankrupt from just one minor major.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video of a guy talk about he was charged $1,300 for 5 stitches. $1,300 for 5 stitches,
Only
and
in this
he
country.
had a health insurance because this is the only country in the world that is this size that actually has a for-profit healthcare system.
Mm-hmm. Due to
When
deregulation.
when we left before our last show before we did this one, Mexico has passed universal health care.
Hmm.
So we're in North America. The country above us, Canada, and the country below us, Mexico, both have universal health care. We have, and I say we, which I don't usually say when I talk about this shithole of a country. The United States has 300 million people. Canada has 30 million. And I believe Mexico has around the same amount, 30, 40 million.
Sounds about right.
We this country generates more money, but both of these have health care for their people
Hmm.
because the wage gap issue is not there. The top earners get richer, especially after this big, beautiful bill. And not even to mention, and I know I'm going off on a whole bunch of other stuff. Many aspects of that bill that was passed does not take effect till one doesn't take effect till after the midterms, so it
Hmm.
takes effect in 27, and another portion of it takes effect after 28, after the current administration will be out of office. So it'll be somebody else's problem. And at the same time, those quote unquote no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, which you only get a certain
Up to
deduction,
what amount?
will
Yeah.
go away when in 2028 they will go away. They will expire. Although these tax cuts that were in this last bill are what permanent,
Of course.
unless you do what Congress has a 2/3 majority on each one to actually change the law. These are the hidden things that you don't know and you don't see.
Hmm.
And it will actually get hit with down the line when the orange buffoon turd will be 6 feet in the ground and you'll still be paying
We'll
for it.
see. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just talking about in general. Perpetuity, we all have an end, but the
For
way
sure.
these
Yeah.
these taxes are there forever. We're still dealing with the repercussions of Ronald Reagan from
Hmm.
40 years ago. And his dementia at Alzheimer's ass was out to lunch in 85, 86,
Hmm.
40 years ago. But let's move on. What
Yeah.
you got something else with another primary or
Yeah. So I had two more, but the one I want to talk about next because it kind of like flows into part of the conversation is the main primary. So uh, and that was I believe it was last
love it.
week. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Senator Susan Collins, she's officially going to be facing off against the progressive combat veteran and oyster farmer Grant Plattner, and he defeated the sitting governor of the state, Janet Mills, in the Democratic primary. He won like over 72% of the vote. Mills, as I mentioned again, like in the previous show, she had dropped out about a month before the primary, and Mills was like she was Chuck Schumer's pick for that Senate seat, and Mills is like she's an older white lady. She's in her, I believe, later 60s or
She's
early 70s.
mm, mm,
No,
mm,
or is she
mm,
older
mm,
than
mm.
that? No, she in the 80s.
She is 80 years
No,
old.
yeah, yeah. So again, old, and that
And
was
I'm
her.
not
That was
saying
her.
black don't crack, but she ain't black and she
Yeah,
is cracked.
that. Yeah. So that just goes to show you where the Democratic Party leadership was with that kind of pick because she moderate Democrat really wasn't running on anything, and that's who they wanted to run against Susan Collins. So clearly they were basically throwing in the towel against Susan Collins, even though she was the sitting governor of the state. So obviously she had name recognition, but still not enough to beat Susan Collins in a general election. So again, she ended up dropping out, so it cleared the way for Graham Plattner to win the Democratic primary. And just in the lead up to that election, so many different hit pieces that came out against Graham Plattner. So basically, one of them was like his former chief of staff had revealed that his wife came to the campaign sometime late last year and disclosed that Plattner had been like sexting with a few different women. And Plattner, he like admitted to it. He said like he's not perfect. He's like continuously working to become like a better person, all that kind of stuff. A lot of the Democratic primary, like the Democrats, the moderates, the more establishment wing of the party, they came out and basically like continuously questioned Plattner. Didn't really necessarily want to put their support behind him as the Democratic nominee and be like the standard bearer for the party in the state. And they basically said like they're not going to back him, and they would much rather focus their energies on races in other states where they think it will be more competitive. But this is going to be a competitive seat. It is a competitive seat. You're simply not supporting him, not because of the things that have came out, but more so because of his platform. He's running on universal health care. He's running on taxing the billionaires, strengthening labor unions, establishing like an economic bill of rights. And the moderate and the more corporate wing of the Democratic Party, they were already against him for those reasons. That's why they were backing Janet Mills. So go ahead. You
The
want to say something?
main
Yeah,
What's the main thing that he's against, though? You tell
yeah,
me what he's for. What is he against? He's against
yeah,
Israel.
yeah, and
He is
right.
anti-Israel. He is anti taking money from corporate tax. He
Hmm.
is a working man that is pro-union and pro-work. But the biggest thing is he is anti-Israel. Susan Collins, who is a quote unquote moderate
Hmm.
Republican. That term is insufficient now because it's full of shit. She's moderate when it's not important.
Hmm.
She's a clutch pearl. She's like, oh, she voted for Brett Kavanaugh. She was the deciding vote for Brett Kavanaugh to be on the Supreme Court.
Hmm.
Let her lie in that. She has voted on with Donald Trump 95% of the time, including being the deciding vote for Brett Kavanaugh.
That's not moderate.
She is moderate in the old sense, but she votes with Trump. She is, I'm going to say it, a liar. 30 years ago, when she first went into this,
Hmm.
she said, I will only run for 2 terms. She was a broke bitch when she came to Senate. Now she is rich. They want to do this purity test on Grant Platinum. Let me explain something to you, and I'm sorry to disrail the jump because I wanted to talk about this now, and
No, it's
we're gonna
perfect.
get back
Yeah.
if you see it. This is this is the issue that I have with Democrats. You are holier than thou and holier than thou when it comes to purity politics. No one talks about the fact that Susan Collins, we want to talk about Grant Plattner sexting and talking to all these different women, old things, and he done cheated on his wife. I don't give a damn. And people may sit there like, how you going to? I don't care. That's between him and his wife. Let's talk about policies, please. Because guess what? Nobody's perfect. If you're perfect and you've been perfect in your relationship and you haven't strayed or you haven't done anything, good on you. But guess what? If you have, how do you, that has nothing to do with your job if you do your job good. And I cannot put up a mirror of a person's purity test when it comes to the fact that you have that person in the White House. So I definitely don't want Republicans was try to say this, that, and other, but you got that guy in the White House. 3 baby mamas, cheated on all 3 of his wives, got one wife buried on his golf course for tax reasons, them paid off hookers. I'm sorry. What is your policy, sir? What are your policies? Are you for policies that's good for the people? And we can't jump in because, first of all, he's not a national candidate. It's not like he's going to be president and running off. That's the people of Maine to decide. Period. But what people actually also don't bring up is the fact that Susan Collins' present husband, she was the side piece.
I didn't know that.
See, you need do you dig it, baby? I'm all up in these white people shit. She was the side piece. Her present husband, her former wife, was dying of cancer when he was dealing with Susan Collins, and left his dying wife of cancer to be with her. It was 30 something years ago, but because she's old now, but I mean, it is what it is. So if we want to bring up Plattner stuff,
yeah,
my man, my girl, you was a homewrecker. But the Christians don't want to talk about that.
of course not.
That's not a moral dilemma. They shun and close their eyes about the 3 wives and the 5 kids by 3 different women, and he don't even claim Tiffany's ass. You know what I mean? See what I'm saying? So what we talking about? This man is talking about. They don't understand. At this point, it's a change element. People don't want the same thing. It's just like you talked about, for whatever reason, Trump was the change candidate. I don't know. I think people actually had amnesia, got that he actually ran the country for 4 years before, but he was still, quote unquote, the change candidate. In some of those illiterate people's minds. So I really have an issue with the fact that we're talking about his personal life because, for one, he doesn't have a political life, but he's talking about things that he's talking about affordability. He's talking about, men's mental health. He's talking about healthcare for all and talking about raising the minimum wage and things like that. Talk about things about the everyday people, and it resonates with people. And I believe that hit piece that it would backfire. No one cared when they interviewed people from Maine. It's like I don't care. And then it was like it came in the 12th hour and who it came from. His one ex-girlfriend who the one person that was actually the girlfriend was a Republican who was Women for Brett Kavanaugh. She ran that program. She was part of the Heritage program. Yeah. And she said they had a volatile relationship, which he admitted, but she also said he never physically touched her. Yeah. It was just more or less they had a volatile, and he said, I was younger. We he's like, I admit he basically did the Eminem.
Yeah, he was like he had PTSD from his service in the military.
He basically brought all this stuff out and said all this stuff. He just didn't put people's names on it.
Yeah.
So it's like No. And then they talk about the tattoo.
Tattoo, yeah, that he got overseas.
That is a neo-Nazi tattoo. And they tried to make it seem like he did know what it was.
Hmm.
And he was specific. He was like, he didn't. Him and his battalion, a few guys,
Yeah.
they all got the same tattoo. And he also explained, I don't know if you heard this, he explained, he said, I have Jewish people in my family. He said, my brother married a Jewish woman. I was dancing at my brother's wedding in front of her Jewish family with my shirt off. If I knew this was a Nazi tattoo, why would I dance with my shirt off in front of a room
Yeah.
full of Jewish people?
Yeah. No
So
sense.
my thing is they try to again the playbook when it comes to politics is can we talk about issues that are not about politics.
Hmm.
Let's talk. Let's talk about social things and deviate because, for one, Republicans don't have any policy.
Yeah.
They their policies is hey, cut taxes, but not taxes for you, taxes for our corporate overlords and our oligarchs, so we
Hmm.
can. And I just want to get in this on some stock, so whereas
Hmm.
though I can make some money off of this shit too.
Yep.
That's the true thing.
Yep.
Do you have something else about this particular primary?
I mean, this one, but it's going to tie into what I'm going to talk about next. But I mean, with this one, it's just like for the again the establishment wing of the party, the moderate wing of the party, to try to come out against him at this juncture in time, especially when control of the Senate is at stake. And the elections this November, it just doesn't make any sense. It's self sabotage. It's like clearly you don't care about, the party winning. You just care about, yourself and keeping, or like not even yourselves, but like the moderates and keeping the Democratic Party pure of again these more left progressive candidates. And again, that's just coming from the Democratic Party's corporate overlords and the oligarchs who, again, they're paying money to both parties, really. But um, the Republicans are just a little more evil. The Democrats, they put a nice bow on things. They think things seem all nice and rosy and stuff. They run candidates like Kamala Harris who run on joy and happy and stuff like that, even though they're still sending money to Israel and supplying bombs for Israel. Um, so it's it's ridiculous. But
Let me ask you this let me ask
go
you
ahead.
this
Yeah.
because you bring up an interesting point, and this is being replayed a lot about Kamala Harris is right. Everything she said is
Yeah.
what's happening. Let
Hmm.
me ask you this, and I'm going to say this straight up. I voted for Kamala Harris,
Yeah. As did
and
I.
I hold my nose and this that and other. I didn't hold my nose. I didn't. Was she a perfect candidate?
No.
No. But as a black person in America, like many black people in America when it comes to voting, I vote for the candidate I believe that's going to do less harm to me and to my life and to people like me that are in the same situation. Honestly, for you, what do you think the Kamala Harris presidency would look like right now? What would be different than the situation that we in now? Good, bad, or indifferent? We've never discussed this. This is
Hmm.
going. This is right here, right now. I've never asked you this in our private conversations or like this, just to let the people know.
Gotcha. So on a few things. So clearly, all the international relation debacles that have been going on and foreign ties and like so between the invasion of Venezuela, all the threats to like Cuba, obviously this. this war in Iran, none of that would have happened. Would she have continued to supply Israel and their assault and annexation and genocide in Gaza? Um, uh, I don't know. I only say I don't know because, again, quietly there were reports that she was against some of Joe Biden's policies and kind of positions, and kind of wanted to move away from being too cozy with Israel. But at the same time, she refused to have any Palestinian speakers at the Democratic National Convention. They refused to really acknowledge them at all, that presence or that wing of the party. So on that on that front, in terms of Israel, I'm unsure of how different she would have been than Joe Biden, but completely, I'm sure she would have been different than Donald Trump is. Donald Trump got roped into this war because he was the first president that was dumb enough to actually believe what Netanyahu was trying to sell him about Iran, and so yeah, he bit the bullet on that one. And maybe in the next time we get together, we can talk about the deal that he just signed. But basically, he
Yeah.
admitting that he lost, and that they're losing in this war. There was no ground invasion, and yet we are conceding to most of their demands. Again, we're going to owe them money. We're giving them back the ability to sell their oil. We're basically going to like pay for the infrastructure to be rebuilt, all that kind of stuff. We're conceding that we lost this thing. None of this would have happened if Kamala Harris was president. And in terms of the economy, uh, again, I want to believe that she would have been better than Joe Biden was, but even then, Joe Biden, coming out of the pandemic, he did make some pretty good, um,
Inflation was at
policies. But
2.9% when
yeah,
he left office.
yeah. So he on that front, he really wasn't as bad as they painted it out to be. But again, coming out of the pandemic, it's a lot of people. I don't know. It's just hard to explain how, like, what the mood of the country, kind of would have been, and what she would have done on that front. But I don't know. I want to believe that she would have became the progressive version of herself that she initially started running back in 2020 at the start of her campaign, and then when she started hearing from the consultants, hey, maybe you need to move this way or whatever like that, then she dropped all that. But I want to believe that she could have been that, but I don't know. What do you think?
I could negotiate with her. That's what I believe. If if I believe she, and I'm saying this because I'm believing that she's going to run in 28.
Oh, for sure she is.
And for a person who only ran for president for 3 months to get 70 something million votes, that says something. Now, part of it had to be a vote against Donald Trump. But what I'm saying is, I believe with the wins of Zoran Mandani and Katie Wilson in Seattle, and then the bubbling of the party. This is what people need to understand about politics, especially with Democratic politics. It starts at the ground. It starts at the grassroots. And if the grassroots starts to bubble up, case in point, case in point, the LGBT community pushing for same-sex marriage, lightning speed, because their coalition was so strong and they pushed. And then what had happened was they made Republicans say, you know what? I got a gay daughter. I got a gay niece. Yeah, we've been hiding this fact, but now we need to Now they coming out the closet and saying, "Yo, I want some boom, boom, boom." I think she would have gone the way of the wind. The wind. So whereas though I truly believe she would be one, she would be pro-Israel. I mean, she's married to a Jewish man.
Hmm.
Um, but I do not think she would be to the she wouldn't have went to war. She wouldn't have been dumb enough to do that.
No.
She wouldn't have tore up Obama's um deal.
Yeah.
I think she would have been better for the country than what we're dealing with now. Because for one, her administration wouldn't push this birthright citizenship.
Hmm.
Her administration wouldn't back the Voters' Rights Act situation. Her administration would not be putting ICE on the streets like this. Would we have problems? Of course, you're always going to have problems.
Hmm.
But life wouldn't be in shambles.
Hmm.
We wouldn't be thinking we living in an authoritarian land. Will white folks be pissed because there's a black Asian woman in the White House? Yeah, but guess what? So what? They had problems with Obama for 8 years too.
Hmm.
I expect right the core people of MAGA or whatever, right, this, that, and other. Fine, whatever. That's always going to be there. Who cares? I mean, I don't expect it. But the fact is, all you could do was pick on the woman's laugh.
Hmm.
When this motherfucker don't crack a goddamn smile, nothing makes them
Hmm.
happy.
Yeah. They said she was too happy.
When is that a thing? Because guess what? I want to explain something to you people. And many of the people are, black people got joy. No matter.
There it is. Black people all, just have joy, and you find joy in whatever. Because guess what? We got to make our own joy.
Hmm.
And then this whole the Rasper thing. She not really black. You know those things that they put out. She not really black. Her mother's Indian. Okay, she brown. Her father's Jamaican, and that's black. Is that African American? Ignorant ass Negroes? No, but she's
No.
still black.
Black.
Uh, she went to Howard. She's a fucking AKA. So, and she was born and raised in America because and she looked like the way she is. I'm pretty sure she always just believed she was some little black girl
Hmm.
before. Don't think when she was 6 years old, she said, you know what? I'm going to run for president. So I'm going to need to just live my life to make it seem like I'm a black African, a black American, which she is a black American. She's just not a descendant of slavery that we know of, but possibly she actually is, or whoever. But that's a whole nother FBA shit, foundational Black America. We need to do a show about the diaspora wars with the financial foundational Black Americans.
Let's do it.
You know, and if you're not a descendant of slavery, you're really not a, you really not black shit. Trust me. They don't ask you. They don't ask you your country or origin when they beating on you and segregate, being prejudiced against you. You just low black.
Shame.
And you up in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Daggone Dominican. Poppy no black.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah.
NYPD don't think it's a difference. That's why Fat Joe be running around
People don't
saying
know.
nigga.
That-
Because when they growing up, the Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, y'all all you just
Yeah.
all the same.
Yeah, they don't discriminate. It's
Try that Poppy no black if you want. Cops think you black.
yeah. What color is your skin? Yeah.
What's next, bud?
All right, then just to wrap up, kind of like primaries and elections. This is from about almost about a month ago now. To revisit the Texas runoffs that were going on. This one was only just on the Republican side for the Senate race because James Talarico, the Democratic, he won the Democratic primary. He defeated Jasmine Crockett a couple weeks before the runoff election. But in the runoff election, again, as I had mentioned in the previous episode, Trump had jumped in against Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton was the former Attorney General of the state of Texas.
No, he's still the president.
Oh, I'm
He's
sorry.
still the president.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's
Okay,
still, yeah,
sorry.
he's still,
I'm sorry. I
he
forgot.
still is.
Still the president.
He still is that piece of shit.
The Attorney General of the state of Texas, and he was going up against the current sitting Senator John Cornyn, and so they were in a really deep Senate battle. And Paxton, he was just riddled with scandals. I'll get into some of it in a minute, but Trump basically came in and endorsed him, and that was enough to push Paxton over the top. So Paxton won the election, but it's the kind of the perfect candidate.
Landslide.
Yeah, for John Kennedy, an incumbent, it wasn't close at all, and this is kind of the exact opponent that James Talarico and the Democratic Party could have asked for because he was riddled with scandals and a lot of baggage. So just a couple things, like he's corrupt and he got impeached, and maybe him getting impeached is why Trump likes him so much. But so he was impeached by the Republican-led Texas House in 2023. Again, Republican-led, but obviously it's Texas. And it wasn't even close. It was like 121 to 20 something. So they overwhelmingly voted to kick him out. And he was basically impeached on like 20 articles of bribery, abuse of public trust, obstruction of justice. But unfortunately, he was acquitted of all charges by the state Senate. So the House said, "Yo, get this guy out of here," and the Senate said, "Not so fast. We're not going to do that." Which is interesting, even that the Texas House voted to do that, because the Republican Party does not ever admit that one of their own has done something wrong. So to hold anyone accountable within the party like that, especially when you have such a majority, it was even interesting that it got that far. But again, he was so egregious in some of the things that he had did. Like one of his donors, his name was Nate Paul. He paid for Paxton's home renovations, and he employed a woman that Paxton was having an affair with. And then Paxton fired some whistleblowers from his office who tried to raise concerns about it. So, like, again, that's illegal. you can't do that. And then not only that, but he let a pedophile walk. Basically, he
Let's give the details, please. Give the details.
A former attorney and a friend of Ken Paxton, his name was Adam Hoffman. He was arrested and charged with like continuous sexual abuse of a young child who was a friend of his son, which is a first-degree felony with like punishable by up to life in prison. But he really
a young boy.
Yeah, really young. He really got basically like a slap on the wrist. And when I say a slap on the wrist, I think he only served like a couple of days in jail, if that. But the deal that he was struck did include, again, minimum jail time, and also he's not going to have to be on the sex offender registry, which he was fucking a little boy. That's nasty. That's gross. That is inexplicable. He should be in jail for the rest of his life. And he got a couple of days, and he does not have to ever, again, register on the offender. So he can live anywhere he wants. He doesn't have to go around and say, "Hey, I'm a sex offender." None of that. So he's just freely roaming the streets now. And it's just crazy because the National Republican Senatorial Committee, like the Republican wing of again, the Senate Republicans who are in charge of trying to get Republicans to win elections, and get in the Senate. They basically back Cornyn. One, because Cornyn was a sitting senator, but also because Paxton just has so much baggage, like so much baggage against him. They were constantly coming out against him, cheating on his wife, just like you were talking about that situation between Grant Plattner. That was just between his wife. Yeah, but they're gonna really hawk on that one. But Kim Paxton cheated on his wife. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. Like we don't care about that one. But cheating on his wife, firing his staff for basically coming out against it, being corrupt. He was impeached, all that kind of stuff. They were coming after him, but after he won the primary, they deleted all their tweets about it. They deleted any kind of communication or media that they had about it, and now they're just completely backing him. And they're attacking James Tallarico for being a vegan, even though he's not a vegan, and for saying that basically God's not a man or a woman, and they're attacking him on that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this race because again, Kim Paxton is not. He shouldn't be. He shouldn't even be allowed to run. So the fact that he's in this position is really wild. It's going to be telling to see where the people of Texas land on this, because James Tallarico is running on. It's not a. He's not a progressive, I would say, really by any standard, but he is a.
He's progressive for
He
Texas.
sounds, yeah, exactly. So for Texas, he seems to be above a moderate. So we'll see how he handles himself as the course of the general election campaign goes. But I think this is the perfect candidate for the Democratic Party to take over, to try to take over Texas against, because again, he just has so much baggage, and it's already some sentiment amongst Republicans in the state that they just don't trust this guy. They don't like this guy. But I mean, again, but he did just beat a sitting senator in a primary and kind of in a runoff and smacked him. So we'll have to see. But the election, the Senate elections in the last couple of years have been getting a little tighter. It started with Beto O'Rourke when he went up against Ted Cruz back in what's that
He
20?
was it. I think it was 3 points. He lost by two
Yeah,
and a half points.
yeah, it was really close. And then was it Colin Allred? Was he the
Yes,
last person to run against
yes.
Ted Cruz again back in 24? And then
It was
obviously
within 5. It was
yeah,
within 5.
yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see, especially because this isn't Ted Cruz, and not that Ted Cruz isn't necessarily a strong candidate, but
Ted
this,
Cruz a piece of
yeah,
shit too.
yeah, but this isn't Ted Cruz that you're running against. This is again someone with a whole bunch of baggage that already has a lot of dirt in the state. So we'll see how this one plays out. There's a lot of money coming. That's going to be going into this race. It's probably going to be one of the most expensive of the entire the general elections around the country, just because Texas is such a large state, but there really is a chance that the Democrats could pull this off. So they are going to have to allocate a lot of resources to that race, and he's doing a really great job campaigning and raising money himself, but he's going to need some help by the Democratic Party.
Oh, and he'll get.
Because
Yeah.
that's the white whale. That's Texas is the white whale, so he'll get it. Let's dig in. I want to dig in some more and add on to you about that race. For one, Paxton's wife is divorcing him on biblical reasons.
Mhm.
Biblical reasons. Also, currently James Tallarico is up 3 points in the polls against Kim Paxton, and that's of course that's in the variance, the plus or minus 6. But for a Democrat to be up in Texas 3 points is saying a lot. Now, many Republican voters say they will not vote for Kim Paxton, and they didn't vote for Kim Paxton. Part of the reason why they didn't vote for Kim Paxton is when Donald Trump actually endorsed him. And when you actually look into the numbers, for instance, in one county, Ken Paxton won by like 65 to 35 percent. But then when they actually looked at how many votes came out of that county, it was only 90 votes. But in that county where only 90 votes were cast, there were over 3,200 registered Republicans. So only 90 Republicans voted that out in the county that were registered over 3,200. So granted, in runoffs and primaries, there's small. I believe many other Republicans are not going to, one, hold their nose and vote for a Democrat because they just break, but they'll stay home. They're going to stay home.
For sure.
One of the biggest things that we haven't discussed, and I was watching a couple videos, and this is one of those FAFO moments. Dal, you know how many data centers are in Texas?
I don't know the exact number.
Texas.
It's a lot. They got a lot of land.
First of all, America, the United States. I'm sorry, I'm smart now. I'm never going to use the United States as America ever again, because America is North America and South America and all the countries. Thank you, Bad Bunny. Thank you, Bad Bunny, for educating me, and actually, I'm going to use it the right way. The United States has the most data centers in the world. Texas currently has the most data centers in this country. Texas is a very large state. Texas has 466 data centers in its state. And we often talk about how it drains the resources, it causes all type of noise pollution, and the turbines are breathing and taking up your water and raising your utility bills. There are many everyday Texans that are going to vote for Democrats solely because they don't want the data centers in their backyard, or they already have them in their backyard and they want them to go away without any shenanigans. Also, the biggest demographic that's growing in America, and is also a very large demographic in Texas, is those brown folks. Those Latin. They do not fuck with Trump anymore. They do not fuck with the Republican Party anymore. Those brown people that are going to be able to make it to the polls and cast a ballot are not voting for them. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to make a prediction June 18th, right today, the day before Juneteenth, where it all started in Galveston, Texas in 1865. Tallarico's going to win by at least 7 points. Between the Democrats voting for him, the brown folks voting for him, Republicans staying home, and then the Republicans with the data center situation. He's going to win by 7 points. Easily. Well, not easily. It's going to be at least 7 points. No one's going to say that. Not even to
I would like to see
mention
it.
the money. This is going to roll down ballot to other states because the Republican National Committee is going to have to put so much money
Into
into
this.
Texas, which is a safe seat usually, and they
Hmm.
don't have to spend all their so much resources there.
Yeah.
So they're not going to spend resources in Maine.
Yep.
They're not going to be spending those resources in North Carolina. They damn sure ain't going to be sending money out to Alaska. They
Hmm.
may try to spend some money in Ohio, but they might think that's actually a lost cause because guess what? You're going against Sharon
Sherrod
Brown,
Brown.
who was a former senator that was a three-term senator that squeaked by when he lost to but that was an
JD
election
Vance.
where as though Trump was on the ballot.
Hmm.
That's a done. I believe that's and you have a very not just an imperfect candidate, a hated candidate that the people in the state hate.
Yeah.
you know, you can have a hated national candidate, but when the actual state, the I'm sorry, the electorate can't stand.
Man,
Yeah.
there's the issue. I want to stay in Texas for a minute. Well, it's going to be more than a minute. Um, I just came across this 20 minutes before we started the show, and I didn't do my due diligence, and it was only two videos, and it just came across my feed because I was just looking for more primary shit and whatever this then. But truth be told, my feed, my algorithm is all politics, and it's either politics or comedians. Because after dealing with politics, I need to laugh. I need something to cheer me up. Um, but one of my content creators was running the Texas Republican Party platform, and I don't know if it was the platform or it or actually what they were talking about. They were talking about what they were going to introduce in their next session, and it was disturbing to me the hatred that people have for other people that don't look like them or worship like them. They were talking about how they were going to introduce a bill to ban halal food from being sold in Texas. And one of the members brought up the fact that would it be constitutional if we just ban the food instead of just making sure it was properly labeled so people can see it and they don't buy it in the grocery store? Because if we just ban it out of the state, then they'll just leave because they can't have anything to eat. And then one of the members stated that, well, my public school doesn't provide Lent lunches for my kid during Lent. They don't. They don't give you. They don't provide Lent meatless things. So why should we provide food for them? if we don't have halal food. Then this bitch, and I'm going to say it, your brother can't stand that I use the term bitch all the time. But you know what? I'm from a different generation when I don't, and like Cat Williams said, if I don't know the person's name, I'm just going to say bitch because she did this bitch stuff. She basically said, all I know is they they kill the animal, they slaughter the animal, and then they just they erect their fake god's name, and then they finish the process. Erect their fake god's name.
Mm.
Give me some runway with here, because I'm going to make some people upset. I am not religious at all. One thing that I am, yeah, I'm respectable to everyone's beliefs when it comes to religion. I don't believe in organized religion at all because I think it's all just a scam. Because I don't believe in man. I can read a book and interpret it myself. I don't need anybody to interpret it to me because that's just man. And so, but to shit on somebody's belief system and say a fake God when I could say you worship a fake God yourself because if you worship that white Jesus and we know he was from Bethlehem and
Hmm.
his hand, his hair was made of wool and he never actually set foot in Europe, and the picture that you're worshiping is actually, and it's actually been proven that it is the painter's uncle. Mhm. But I digress. Islam is the second largest worshipped religion in the world. Anywhere from 2.3 to 2.6 billion people are Muslim in the world. The issue is that these white people in America believe their religion is the greatest thing of all because the most number one religion in the world is Christianity, which is they say anywhere between 2.6 to 3 billion people worship worldwide. The number one country in the world that worships Christianity is in these United States. Over 250 million, anywhere from 61 to 65 to 71% are Christians. The biggest faction of Christianity is Catholics, 1.9 billion people worldwide, even though evangelical Christians can't stand Catholics. And that's a whole nother thing.
Hmm.
But they have issues with the Pope and all that other stuff. But they worship that fake Jesus that's in the White House. I bring all this up because these people are willing to ban the food of of people of a certain religion, thinking that that will make them not be in the state. And then I looked up what halal food was and what the process was. And I don't know if you know this, Dow, and I don't know even know if a lot of people are privy to this. That they often talk about how Muslims and Jews are always at, you know, at odds with one another. But I often say, "But wait a minute, from my education and my research over the years and just listening from, you know, on both sides because I don't belong to any of the set. They have a lot of things in common when it comes to their religion. I'm saying. So I look what's the difference between kosher and halal?
There's
Both
nothing
of them
major.
don't eat both of them don't eat pork. Both of them don't. This is what happens when you do with halal and kosher. Halal is basically when it's a clean cut. So whereas though you actually kill a healthy animal, so the animal is supposed to be, you know, well fed, you know, and not to be taken care of before, and you slit its throat. One quick slit. When the person the butcher just slits their throat, they 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 say they praise Allah,
Hmm.
and then they drain the blood. They because the blood drainage is supposed to make it more cleaner and pure. And people often say it's a clean meat. In Hebrew and kosher, you take this well fed, well taken care of animal and you slit the throat and you drain the blood and you say a Hebrew hymn, saying religiously. The only difference is when it comes with kosher that you you separate meat and dairy. They can't coexist to a point where as though Hebrews they don't even use the same dishes and they wash them different. Meat and dairy doesn't they don't process them in the same facility and things of that nature. So also separate from the process, I know this. Half my family is Christian, the other half is Muslim. But every time when it comes to time to eat, and you know this from your grandparents, they pray over
Hmm.
the food before you eat. But there's an issue praying over the food when you slaughter it. This is just the hypocrisy that I'm
Hmm.
talking about. Where these people use different things to define, you know, fake God. She used the term fake God when it, no matter what, in every religion is based on what you believe, and somebody else that may be another sect from that actually believes in another religion can tell you that your God is fake.
Hmm.
An atheist that say all this shit y'all thinking about is fake. Y'all need to actually worry about and do right in this time, right here, right now, because you do nothing but fucking worm food when you going. That's what an atheist would say. The culture wars. This is another reason why I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan and I will never go to fucking Texas. And my son, he knows. I said, I don't even want to go through Texas. Shit, the most thing I ever came, I flew over that bitch a few times when I was going to daggone California. I don't ever want to go to Texas. I don't want to visit. I don't, I don't like their policies. I don't like how they get down. And most of the time, the majority of that state is a third world fucking country when that state produces as much fucking money as fucking Dubai. But they don't, they're horrible in education, they're horrible with their people, and they're horrible when it comes to actually social services. They have their own little third world country electricity grid because just like everything else that's run by Republicans, they drain the resources and the top little 5-10% make all the money and the rest of the people get shit. They have a GDP as large as Dubai, and their people don't have services. But we don't have any state income tax. If you had some state income tax, maybe somebody actually be able to goddamn have a goddamn education.
Mhm. Ain't that
These
something?
people, I don't want to pay taxes. I want to keep my money. Capitalist system. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me.
Unfortunately, that's all they know. So that's what the system does.
I'm sorry, but that's what that really, and I'm gonna tell you this much. I love halal food.
Yeah.
When I go to the supermarket and I see in they have like halal lunch meat or whatever, I pick the halal lunch meat because I love the way, and I guess it's because whatever reason the process is clean or whatever. I I love halal food, and I'm not Muslim. I taste the difference.
Hmm.
You know, our little my little corner store is halal because you know the Muslim is a little all their and you know how much you love the chicken over there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It's
that's
really good.
it's allowed. You know, and I done had kosher food. I enjoy it.
Hmm.
You know, it's it's just a better process, especially in the United States because a lot of daggone processes are crappy. You know,
Hmm.
what else you got for me, bud?
But one of the last things I have, obviously I have something to close out, but because I know we're already at like an hour 40. I know you got some stuff that you want to tackle. But staying in Texas, it was recently the Texas Republican convention that was going on this week, and a couple of and it's right directly in line with what you were saying about them trying to ban halal food. A few Muslim men went to the Republican convention to confirm whether or not they had a place within the Republican Party. Um,
Okay.
they very quickly learned that they did not. Um, and again, these were four different people, and they obviously identify as Republicans. But two of them, they were members of and I'm blanking on the organization's name, but they were part of an organization that basically just seeks to inform people about Islam and about the religion and about Muslims, like broadly, so that people weren't afraid of Sharia law, so they weren't afraid of just Muslim people in general, halal food, things like that. And the party, basically, and like members of the party that and attendees that were there, basically saw them as being tied to a terrorist organization, simply because they sought to speak about Islam, positively and highlight the benefits of it, and just like exactly what it was. Um, and they were told numerous times throughout the convention that they should leave and that they were not welcome there. One of the speakers even came up to them and said, like, "Hey, there's the state Democratic convention is going on in a few weeks, and you should go to that. Like, you shouldn't be here." And they want to add to the party platform which was they bring up at the convention. They want to add to the platform, something to like stop Sharia law from being implemented in Texas. It's nowhere close to happening. It's not. It's not even a conversation. So, and basically, what Sharia law is just living like in accordance to like the way that the Bible tells you to do, like terms for like daily life. These people all over the country, specifically in Texas and in the Bible Belt, what do they want you to do? Live in accordance to the Bible, live
White
by what
Christian
God says.
nationalism. What
Yes.
white
So it's
Christian
not
nationalism.
so what they say is this boogeyman thing, like Sharia law. It's just exactly what they want to implement. It's just a different religion. And again, there is no serious, large, or even attempted push for it to try to implement Sharia law anywhere in the country, specifically and definitely in Texas. So
It's a
my whole
straw man.
yeah, exactly. It's just again, if that's their current target right now is, which their target for a while has been Muslims. But currently that's one of the it's trans people, Muslims, and Black people being able to vote.
Again, the Republican Party uses social issues to scare people into voting for them. Sharia law, they talk about how it's implemented. They don't talk about, and we will discuss this. Our the Iran deal and about Iran, we need to dig into the history over the last 47 years because the United States actually pushed Iran into the situation that they are in today because they were democratic before that and they were prospering.
Hmm.
And when they infiltrated and took over the country and they installed the religious leaders that was they put in the Shah. They use hot button topics to skew you and to scare you. When you talk about the trans issue, trans people are 1% of the population in this country. 1%. And for the most part, I've been around trans people personally since I've been part of this organization. Uh, since I've been part of IME since 2020. And for the most part, from my observation, they just want to be live their lives. Period. No more, no less. They just want to be citizens, and they have to fight to be just regular citizens. I see a similarity with trans people with black folk,
Hmm.
and to be black trans is a whole nother thing. But black folk just want to be leave the fuck alone. If you leave us alone, which y'all can't do,
Hmm.
because every time we was left alone, we prospered. We built cities and towns. We prospered. Even coming out of Reconstruction, we prospered. The only, and I'm gonna land the plane, but I'm gonna go through all of it. The only coup that was successfully done on American soil was in Wilmington, North Carolina, which was a black town that had st- doctors, banks, a political structure, and economic fortitude
and it was taken over, ran, and destroyed by white folks, killed, burnt the town, forced the black leaders out, and was taken over because white man couldn't see a black man prospering and doing better than them. Rosewood, Tulsa, um, many times, anytime black people were left to their own devices, they prospered, and it was taken away. The only time that a bomb was thrown onto American city was in the Tulsa massacre in 1921. Trans people are 1% of the population. We talk about trans people like they're 30, 40, 50% of the population. They talk about men in sports, they talk about trans athletes. There are 10 trans collegiate athletes. 10.
Two
For
hands.
people that are watching, two hands for 10. You know how out of 519,000 collegiate athletes, why is there a conversation?
Hmm.
10 out of 519,000. And I'm going to say it again. Sorry to my son that's not on here. This bitch Riley Gaines,
Hmm.
who got popularity because she lost to a trans athlete. Do y'all know that bitch came in fifth? She tied for fifth.
She tied with the
Fifth
trans
place.
athlete. Yeah.
She tied with the trans athlete for fifth. It wasn't first place, but they only had because they tied for fifth. They only had 5 trophies, and they gave it to the trans girl. I was about to say the other girl because that's just what I say. The other girl. It wasn't. eh, she beat me out, and just she tied for fifth. She is that what we're she tied for fifth. Wasn't first place. Wasn't she
Hmm.
tied for fifth? Y'all have hatred in your heart because you people are weak. Y'all are the real snowflakes. Y'all could not be black people because y'all couldn't endure the shit my people have endured for these 400 years
Hmm.
and survived. Y'all falling apart in the last fucking 16 months when we've been living this shit forever. Trans people, Muslims, immigrants. Was the immigrants the problem? Were they? Because y'all don't have jobs.
Hmm.
The economy is suffering. Shit's still fucked up, but y'all still grabbing ablalas at the CVS.
Hmm.
Y'all still grabbing kids at graduation. Y'all snatching people out of cars on their way to their proms and their high school graduations. Y'all pulling parents out of the school pickup and drop off lines. Y'all bitches great yet? Are y'all? Or was the brown man a boogeyman?
That's what they
Hmm.
were sold. Yep.
Y'all niggas thought y'all had dairy farms, y'all had all type of vegetable, you know, all these different farms, and y'all voted, and y'all didn't think he was coming for y'all workers,
Mhm.
and y'all, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Dakota, all y'all going bankrupt, and y'all want another handout, but black folks are on the government's team. They on welfare. The true fucking users of welfare is Walmart. These corporations that get government bailout and government assistance, and their employees that they employ still have to go file for SNAP benefits when they got a full-time job. But corporate welfare is cool. And I hope all this shit
Always.
burned in. I hope all this shit burned in.
It it will, because it has to.
All of it. I want your capitalism to rear its ugly head. People are the true backbone of this society. The
Hmm.
working people. The trains can't run on time without people. Oh, but they had an ideal and they came up with a solution and they employ all these people. Most of your ideals was stolen, fool. Stole everything. Yeah, let me tell you a little story, and I don't know if you know this. Did you know Donald Trump's grandfather uh who was from Germany, left Germany and came to America because he didn't want to do military service?
I'm not sure I knew that.
Yeah, no, this is fast. I'm just telling you. His grandfather left Germany because he did not want to participate in military service. Came to America illegally, illegally. Tried to start a business, failed. So obviously that must be in the gene pool. Went to Canada, started a brothel selling women
Man.
during the gold rush. And this is what he did. Accepted payment in gold dust. The good thing about accepting payment in gold dust was you could actually transfer that and turn that into cash right away because gold was the thing. Made his money, tried to go back home to Germany, and they said, "We don't want you. Get out." Went back to the United States illegally for the second time.
Mm.
Donald Trump's father, Fred, was born in America. So he was what? A citizen. The reason Donald Trump had money was because his father gave him a $10 million loan or gave him $10 million to start his own business. But that money was from what? from his grandfather being a brothel owner in Canada. So this man who had bone spurs and actually got out of serving had a grandfather who got kicked, left Germany because he refused to serve in the military and actually did what? Sell women for profit. And that is this country's president. And that is his bloodline.
Hmm. Look at him now.
I'm more proud from my bloodline being from slavery because I know my people worked hard for everything that they didn't have and then got.
Hmm. No handouts over here.
We need to yeah, we're going to I want to end it there because I can go on forever.
Hmm.
You have anything you want to finish with?
Um, man, do I have anything? I got a fun one.
Okay. I
Well,
need
not
to
a,
laugh.
maybe not a fun one. So, it's actually something I had covered um a little while back. It's the World Cup again. Um,
Oh,
and that's exactly what it is. Um, and to start, there's some really great content and things that are going on with this World Cup around the country, between different watch parties and viewing parties, different initiatives amongst the cities that are participating in the World Cup. It's encouraging to see how many people visiting from other countries are discovering
mhm.
what the U.S. has to offer and being
All the
amazed at
white
this product.
people?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, it is mostly them. But being in New York, I mean, there's been a lot of Brazilian, Moroccan, Senegal, France. It's been people from, but that's
Oh,
always
they
the
let
case.
them in?
But
We need to talk
exactly,
about that next week. We need to go in
and that's
detail about this next week.
I was gonna say, and I just want to breeze over it, but we definitely we can go in detail in it. But
We will be
it's
doing the
great.
World Cup and Iran deal next week.
Yeah,
That's it. That's all we
let's
talking
do it.
about.
Yeah. So I was going to do a deep dive. How much of this? Well, basically, I'll just start with. It's just been a lot of problems with it. Again, there's a lot of great things going on. A lot of people from other countries discovering what America has to offer. Huge gas stations, big stadiums. People from all over the world eating cheesesteaks in Philly, running the Rocky Steps, visiting national parks, experiencing the good things that America has to offer. But at the same time, this is Trump's America. So there's been so many different problems with these games, between, again, something that I already talked about, high ticket prices, high cost of just getting to the stadiums on game days, the prices of hotels, just travel and flights to get here. Again, with the war in Iran, now that it's, I mean, coming to a close, we'll see if it's coming to a close, but and writing is coming to a close. We'll see what that does to
60
fuel prices,
days.
but with fuel prices being so high, obviously it increases the price of gas and jet fuel as well. So airlines have also been really expensive as well. Separate from that, there's been so many issues with different teams having to be subject to additional security screenings. Once they arrived in the country, the ref from Somalia, who was recently selected as one of the best referees in Africa, who was selected to be one of the referees for the games, was unable to obtain a visa because there were concerns about associations with suspected members of terrorist organizations. But again, quote unquote terrorist organizations. FIFA's absolutely quiet about that, absolutely quiet about the security screenings, absolutely quiet about the fact that the Iranian national team is unable to stay in the United States between games. So they have to travel. They traveled 5 hours to the game in Los Angeles from Tijuana and had to go back to Tijuana in the same exact day. And only the players and a select number of the staff from Iran, from the Iranian national team, were even able to get visas to be able to be in the United States just for the games. So they really just, due to the travel ban, obviously because they were in a conflict with Iran. So there's just a bunch of problems with these games, and FIFA is quiet on it. And FIFA has the ability to do something. They barred Russia from competing in the 2020 and two World Cup after they invaded Ukraine, and yet they're allowing Israel to play despite invasions and illegal occupations of Gaza and Lebanon. And FIFA they've been backwards, or been over backwards to appease Donald Trump. They created a peace prize for him, even though he's done nothing at all to promote peace anywhere, home or abroad. And they're silent on all of these abuses. And as a host country, one of the host nations, we're supposed to be, there's certain like regulations and things that we're supposed to be accommodating, and we're simply not doing that. And it's just interesting. Like you said, we can do a deeper dive next week, but we're just showing our ass in a good way, showing like what we have, like again, to offer as America, all the great things, again, the parks, the cities, the people, the food, the coach, some of the culture, all those things. But we're also showing we're a little racist, we're a little hateful, we're a little bit of this and that, and we can choose whether or not you're going to be here. We can choose whether or not one of the goalies who just so happens to be famous from a good performance, yeah, we can let his mom in who was having visa issues and restrictions and stuff like that. But other people who are trying to get in, nah, we're not going to give you a visa simply because we don't like the country you're coming from. We don't like the color of your skin. And again, France, the people from France, people from the UK, people from Norway, they're not having, South Africa, they're not having any problems getting in. It's the people from Uzbekistan. It's the people from Senegal, from Uruguay. It's the people from Somalia, different places in Africa that are having troubles and issues trying to get into the Middle East, trying to get into the country to support their home countries in these World Cup games. And it's really a shame because it's a great thing to be able to play host to these games. It's about bringing different people together, and that's what the spirit of the country is. So the fact that we're ruining it, I mean, again, ultimately, at the end of it, it might be a great thing overall, not the specific things that are going on, but the games, like, people are really into it, the excitement and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we'll see how much that outweighs all the negative things that are going on. But there's just way too many negative things going on to explain. But like you said, we can do a deeper dive into it next week.
Yeah, and I want to because it's not something to just gloss
Yeah.
over, and said the same thing. And I want to actually we'll go over the Iran deal if it actually signed it, and my thoughts about, because it's a 60-day process, and the actual with talking about the Iran deal, what 47 actually said on the record yesterday, he actually sounded like he had a moment of clarity and he was like a real fucking person. If you can check that clip that he talked about Israel,
Mm-hmm.
it was just wild because I couldn't believe he actually said what he said. It sounded like JFK. Or it's only two presidents in history that's actually broke with Israel and actually said something to try to hold them accountable. John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan, and they both were shot. We'll leave it at that right there for now and discuss it more. But yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things are coming ahead with the little country in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. The size of New
Um,
Jersey.
and we didn't even talk about Tom Kane Jr. Shit. That's I really want to know where he at. Is he with us?
Look, and
Because
it's the weirdest thing ever. Like, very strange.
for full disclosure, we are originally from New Jersey, and his father, Tom Kane Sr., was, you wouldn't remember this. I remember this as a child. He was governor, and he was a Republican, but he was the true sense of a moderate Republican
that won the state, him and Christy Whitman, who were Republicans in blue states because they were truly moderate. And you could actually see yourself voting for them because you may had because damn, I'm going off on a tangent again, and I don't want. But it's just where as though they might have some social differences in your opinion, but it was a time where as though they still fell into place with other things that you could actually vote for. So whereas though back in the day you didn't have a purity test and you knew that you're not going to agree with a politician totally, but are they going to do X or Y things to me for me to make my life better? And you would vote for a moderate Republican because they weren't extreme. That was the politics. That's how a Christy Whitman, that's how a Tom Kaine, and that's how a Chris Christie could be governor and still work with a Cory Booker in Newark and get things done. Because it was like, okay, we don't agree on abortion. We don't agree on Social Security. We don't agree on this, but this is what we do agree with. So, oh yeah, I can work with you on that type thing. That's a whole other thing. But we want that people. Tom Kaine. Last vote was in March on March 5th.
Yep. Been MIA.
Been MIA, but he's still been trading on the stock market.
But of course he has.
And when it comes to public events, his staff is going around in public events. They say he has some type of illness, but they haven't disclosed what the illness is. But it's to the point. What I don't understand is you can't do a FaceTime, you can't make a video, you can't do anything. This is 2026.
Yeah.
This is not FDR's time where as though he's in a wheelchair and nobody knows it.
Yeah.
Because you can hide that shit. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm confused. I'm a smart man and I can't get it.
And also the thing is that you can't work remotely. You can't vote remotely in Congress.
Right. So he hasn't voted
in Washington. You need to be
since March 5th.
Yeah. So he hasn't been doing his job.
But he ran unopposed. He's running for re-election in November, but he ran in a primary unopposed.
Ridiculous.
That is just another man. I swear to God, if I find out this man is not with us anymore, and this is a whole
Imagine, but they keep the majority in the House.
And we also need to deal with in the coming weeks with the gerrymandering, and we just need to dig into how this. I believe this gerrymandering is going to backfire because I think people are just going to vote. And surprisingly, I don't even know if you saw this. Georgia, well, at least for now, they called this a special session yesterday, 2 days ago, and they decided not to touch the maps.
The majority black districts.
They didn't touch the maps. But it'll be coming again for the 28th, but they didn't want to deal with it now. That really surprised me. It's a win now, but it's a I'll see y'all later type thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to finish off. I have a video, and I didn't share this with you, and I want to share this with our our audience. And I think what I want to do at the end of our each show after we go through our final is show a video to commemorate something for somebody to, something to think on, and it's try to educate our audience about politics, about Black people's history in this country, and things like that. I'm a child of the '70s, and I was radicalized at a young age. I was radicalized as a teenager. I'm I often tell people that I'm, and Dallas, I done said it around. I'm more Malcolm than Martin. Um, and one of my heroes in poetry and just music and just the Black experience was Gil Scott Heron. And I wanted to leave us with a video about of Gil Scott. I believe it's AI with some of it, but it's his actual voice. And I remember this actual speech slash poem that he stated about the history of Black people and the history of America, and it actually gives you something to actually think about. And with that, um, progress and got a new thing. I actually figured out progress is a state of mind, and it's time to get your mind left because you need to be more on the left spectrum than the right when it comes to political thinking. So we need to get our mind left and more on a democratic socialist platform because that's what's better for all of us as a whole. Raise the floor,
Hmm.
bring that ceiling down so we can meet in the middle. And with that, we'll see you next time. And listen to Gil Scott.
Nice.
All right.
About our yesterdays and digging through the rubble. And to say the least, somebody went to a hell of a lot of trouble to make sure that when we looked things up, we wouldn't fare too well. And we would come up with totally unreliable pictures of ourselves. But I've compiled what few facts I could, such as they are, to see if we could find out a little bit of something. And this is what I got so far. First, white folks discovered Africa. They claimed it fair and square. Cecil Rhodes couldn't have been robbing nobody because, hell, there wasn't nobody there. And white folks brought all the civilization because there wasn't none around. How could the folks be civilized when wasn't nobody writing nothing down? And just to prove all of their suspicions, well, didn't take too long. They found out that there were whole tribes of people in plain sight running around with no clothes on. That's right. The men, the women, the young, and the old righteous folks covered their eyes. And no time was spent considering the environment. Hell no, this just wasn't civilized. And another piece of information they had, or at least this is what we were taught, is that unlike the civilized people of Europe, these tribal units actually fought. And yes, there was some crude implements, and yes, there was primitive art, and yes, they were masters of hunting and fishing, and courtesy came from the heart. And yes, there was love and medicine, religion, intertribal communication by drum, but no paper, no pencils, and no other utensils, and hell, these folks never even heard of a gun. And this is why the colonies came, to stabilize the land, because the dark continent had copper and gold, and the discoverers had themselves a plan. They would discover all the places with promise. You didn't need no titles and deeds. Then they would appoint people to make everything legal, to sanction the trickery and greed. And back in the jungle, when the natives got restless, they would call it guerrilla attack. And they would never describe that the folks finally got wise and decided that they would fight back. And still, we are victims of word games. Semantics is always a bitch. Places once referred to as underdeveloped are now called mineral rich. And the game goes on eternally. Unity kept just beyond reach. Egypt and Libya used to be in Africa. They've now been moved to the Middle East. There are examples galore, I assure you. But if interpreting were left up to me, I'd be sure every time folks knew this version wasn't mine, which is why it is called his story.
Man,
His
that's really good.
story. As always, it's been a pleasure, son. And thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next week.
Have a nice one for sure.
All right.